So I'm really thrilled today to be joined by the lovely Shabnam Rakhiba, and she's a trauma-informed coach, chronic illness mentor, and the founder of Chronic Wellness Lounge. And she lives with chronic pain herself, so she completely understands what it means to live in a body that's not always cooperating with you. And her work is all about helping women move from survival mode to living a life that feels spacious and meaningful and a life that they can live on their terms. So, Shabnam is a disability inclusion consultant and she's passionate about health equity and advocating for health equity. And she's also the co author of a recently published book, Learning Through Pain, which is an enormously powerful resource for women looking to reclaim their lives really from pain and sharing their pain stories. And if you haven't already read it, I can highly recommend it. So, Shabnam, it's lovely to have you here. Welcome.
Hi, Deborah. It's really so good to be here today with you. Um, Thank you for having me join you. Thank you so
Oh,
much. And thank you for introducing me and saying a little bit about my book.
yeah. Oh, no, I'm really excited about our conversation today. So, I want to dive straight in really and just ask you to expand on what I've just said and tell us a bit more about yourself and what you do.
Okay, I would love to talk more about myself and my work, or should I say my passion. But before that, let me share a story, okay? Let me share a story. I'm sure you know, Deborah, of a story of a boy who cried wolf, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a story of a boy who was lying so often that when danger was real, when he really needed help, no one believed him. No one came to his rescue, right?
Mhm.
So now there's another story, and this one, unfortunately, isn't fiction. It's called The Girl Who Cried Pain. And in this story, the girl is crying out. She's crying out again and again. Her pain is real, but no one believes her. And this time it's not because she's lying. It's not because she's lying. It's simply because she's a woman. How sad is that? And Deborah, this is the heartbreaking reality of so many women living with chronic pain right now. Okay, and this The Girl Who Cried Pain is actually the title of a research study in 2001, which showed that women are more likely to be undertreated for pain compared to men, and that women's reports of pain are more likely to be dismissed as emotional and not being real, which is quite sad. It's heartbreaking if you think about it. Now, we are now in 2025, and we would be forgiven if we were to think that, okay, that was like 2001, so many years ago. We are 2025 now. Things must definitely have changed. Okay, another study, because I love those studies, 2018 this time, called Brave Men, Emotional Women, which shows that healthcare providers, again, show a gender bias when treating women. So, what we are witnessing now, unfortunately, even in 2025, is women living with chronic pain, being stripped of their dignity, being medically gaslit, and left begging for help by the very systems meant to be helping them. Right. So I'm Shabnam Rakhiba, and I'm the founder of Chronic Wellness Lounge, a platform to support women living with chronic health conditions and chronic pain. So women who feel disempowered, helpless, overwhelmed can get the support they deserve and can get back to life, can get back to joy, to purpose. And at the Chronic Wellness Lounge, we offer one on one coaching, online support groups, group coaching, and really it's a safe space for women living with chronic health conditions. That was
Wow.
a lot, I know.
No, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. And it's so powerful the way you explain that and how you talk about that. It is absolutely shocking, isn't it, that that health inequality still exists in our society today, and that women are still not being listened to and still being left to suffer. And I think it happens, across the board with pain and with illness in all conditions, really. Women's voices are not heard.
Mm.
And it's so powerful the way you explain that. Thank you so much for sharing that incredibly distressing research, really, but
Mhm.
it's great that the research is being done and that a light is being shone on that inequality, and that we are at least now becoming aware of it. And the work that you do in raising that awareness and in supporting women is fantastic. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
So, what's brought you to this journey then? What made you decide to go into working with pain and found the Chronic Wellness Lounge? What's your story?
Well, I've lived with chronic pain for 14 years now. It started gradually when I was in my early 20s after my second child was born, and it became all consuming, widespread body pain, and consuming all of my life, really. I was young, I was ambitious, and I was very confused when the doctors just dismissed my pain and reduced it to anxiety and just kept pushing medications and injections without knowing the cause of the pain. I was really confused. And it's only quite recently, in the last 4 years, that I've been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, endometriosis, and possibly adenomyosis. Really, after a decade of running from pillar to post, just trying to find someone to help me, to tell me what's going on with my body. It was such a dark time, and there's been so many times where I've had very dark thoughts, saying to myself that, okay, if this is my life, this is how the rest of my life is going to be, then I don't want it. I just don't want to be here. I don't want this life anymore. And something that I like to make clear is that this isn't depression talking, right? It's not depression, it's pain induced despair. When pain is not controlled and you sink into that dark hole, that's what it is. So my master's is in psychology, and then I trained in life coaching and trauma-informed acceptance and commitment therapy. And training in acceptance and commitment therapy really changed everything for me, Deborah. It changed everything because it didn't take the pain away, it didn't take the physical pain away, but it took the suffering away, the emotional suffering away, and it gave me a way to live life with the pain rather than fighting against the pain every day and fighting against my body. So really now I should say I'm in a better place. I feel connected to my body. I have an amazing toolbox of strategies that I can use to navigate life with chronic pain. I have a beautiful family. I have an amazing supportive partner. And I think more importantly for me right now is that I am no longer burdened with guilt and shame for being in pain. I feel I have a purpose to my life and I have a voice. I have a voice, I have a powerful voice. And this is why I coach and mentor other women with chronic health conditions, because I believe that every woman deserves to have a safe space where she's heard, and she deserves to have a life that she loves, isn't it?
Oh, that's beautiful. Absolutely. And what better person to support a woman who is in pain than you, who have been through this yourself and are able to use your own journey? That's really what helps, isn't it? To be able to truly empathize and to understand and to know what someone really needs to hear in that moment once you've been through that. And it's heartbreaking, really, to think that you were in that situation and so young and kind of just abandoned really on the scrap heap. You've just got to get on with life and that's it and accept that, It's incredible that you've turned your life around. Inspirational, really. Absolutely inspirational what you've done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I think you make some really important points there. I mean, pain-induced despair
Mm,
is just such a powerful phrase, isn't it? It's not depression, it's not mental illness, it's not that you've given up on life.
hmm.
It's the despair, it's like situational, isn't it? It's
Absolutely.
purely caused by the pain. And I think that's
Yep.
really powerful.
It is a very understandable and human reaction, a response to a difficult situation,
Yes, of
right?
course. Yes,
So
and yet I think sometimes, like you said, when women go to the doctors and beg for help, it's seen as evidence that they are anxious, and it's
depressed,
a
yeah,
yes, it's a mental thing. When actually
completely.
what they're experiencing is that despair, what you're describing there. So, yeah, really powerful, and the guilt and the shame that goes with it. I think
Oh yeah,
it's huge emotions that so many women who are living with pain are also suffering with. It's not just the pain, it's the guilt and the shame that goes with it.
this
Absolutely.
emotional burden, this
Yeah,
emotional suffering and burden that we have to carry
absolutely. It is, yes. As well as the pain, it's a dual burden, isn't it? Yeah.
completely.
And you've kind of touched a little bit on this already, but I think a lot of people mistakenly think that when you live with pain, you go to the doctor, they give you a tablet, it goes away, and that medical science has answers, maybe.
Yeah.
And I think, that is a little bit of a misconception until you actually
Mm,
find yourself in the situation that you and I and many others have found ourselves in. That's not really the case, is it? I mean,
mm.
people do struggle, really struggle to get the help that they need, don't they, through conventional medicine?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's true. It's not as easy as we think to get support, especially for chronic pain.
No, no,
The
they don't
help
have the
and
answers.
support is simply not there. Simply not there. You cannot get support from a GP who you see only for 5 minutes, and after 5 minutes, they say, okay, your time is up.
Mm. Yes, exactly. When it's so complex and so all encompassing, the system of just having, like you say, a 5-10 minute appointment is not enough.
It's not enough.
Doctors, the training and the research that doctors are given into pain is
Mm,
not really, it's they don't have the answers, and pain medications can, bring loads of other problems with them as well, can't they? And you don't
absolutely.
you don't want to live your life doped up to the eyeballs on morphine. That's not an answer, is it, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you talked about acceptance and commitment therapy there and
Mhm.
coaching. How does your coaching support people with pain? People kind of sometimes think, well, there's something physically wrong with me, and
Mhm.
they feel again, oh no, somebody else who's going to gaslight me and tell me that it's all in my head. If you're talking about coaching for pain, there can be that misconception, can't there? But how does coaching actually help people with pain?
Yep. Great question. First thing I need to say is that when it comes to medical treatments, right, the thing that we need to understand is they absolutely have their place in our lives, right? There's no question about that. And I'm very honest about this. I'm not here to tell people to abandon their medication, don't go see your doctors, and completely go down the alternative medicine path. That's not what I'm here to do, right? I'll share a little bit more about my story here to help you understand my point. So, for the first 14 years of living with pain, right, I rarely used any medication, no medication. Because, like I mentioned before, the doctors kept pushing medication without telling me why I was in pain. There was no deeper investigation into the cause of the pain. And I wanted to know the root cause, right? So I did not use medication really. And during that time, I focused on building what I call my pain toolkit. For example, mind body practices, nervous system grounding, visualizations, body scan, all of these to help me calm my nervous system and help me really try to stabilize the pain, right? Now, these tools, they didn't eliminate my pain, but they did help me reduce the severity and the duration of a pain flares because I was getting pain flares that would last for months. I could be well, and then suddenly I would have a pain flare, and it would be weeks before the pain came down again. So, using those tools, I've been able to reduce the duration of the pain flares and how severe they are. Now, here's the thing. Last year, I made the decision to go on some medication, daily medication, to manage severe pain that I've been getting for 14, 15 years on my left side. And that's been persistent. Nothing touches it. Nothing. So I'm glad to say it's helped and that I'm only using the lowest possible dosage. And the thing is, I'm not only relying on medication because when we rely solely on medication or medical treatments, we end up needing more and more medication over time. And like you rightly said, these come with so many more side effects over time, right? And even then, pain can still persist. So the thing is, the medical treatments, right? They can help. They absolutely have their place, but they don't help enough to allow us to live life well. If I'm making sense here. Um, Let me give you a statistic about chronic pain in England, right? 15 million people in the UK, in England, sorry. 15 million people, that's 34% of the population, Deborah, living with chronic pain. That's a lot.
It's
And
insane, isn't it?
really, it's shocking. If medical treatment alone was the answer, right? Would we be seeing such widespread suffering and disability linked to chronic pain? We wouldn't.
Yeah.
So really, so pain coaching, coming back to your question, pain coaching bridges this gap. We have a gap here between the medical, the clinical, and the personal, what's going on in the person's life and body, right? So pain coaching, the work that I do, helps people to reclaim agency over their life, over their bodies. And in some cases, it can help with pain relief where medical treatments have not helped.
Wow, that is so interesting. Thank you so much for explaining that. And absolutely, it's a combination, isn't it? It's a combination of finding the tools that work for you, a combination of medication and all these other tools that you know and talk about. It's there's no one right or wrong answer, is there? People, we have to do what we have to do in order to be well. And sometimes that's medication, sometimes that's other tools. And it's beautiful that you were able to use those tools and the visualization and the nervous system rebalancing for so long to help you manage your pain. And that's incredible testimony to you for doing that. And it means that as a pain coach, you can then teach people those tools and actually how to use them in the field, as it were, in real life. Because it's not easy, is it? It's not just a case of, oh, just close your eyes and visualize, and
Yes.
magically that helps you somehow. It's hard work, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
really
yeah,
hard work to learn
completely.
these tools and to practice them. It takes real
To
commitment.
persist.
Yes, absolutely. You've got to persevere with it. You've got to practice. But yeah, and I think, you've touched on a really important point there about how pain, the pain experience and also the medical system experience can be so disempowering. People lose their power, their sense of agency. They just don't feel in control of their lives anymore.
That's
And
true.
yeah, that is so, as a coach, you have so much to give in terms of re-empowering people.
Thank you. It's really true because I'm really not the same person I was when the pain started. In the beginning, I felt helpless and frightened. Now with change, I feel more in control of my body. I understand more. I feel more connected. I feel more in control of my life, I should say.
Absolutely, yes. And that leads into the next point, really, that I wanted to ask you about the fact that pain affects every aspect of a person's life, doesn't it?
Mhm.
It's not just pain. You can't
Yeah.
just think, oh, I'm just going to look for a pill or a thing that's going to fix the pain. And you put it so beautifully in your book. You put heal your life, not your symptoms. And I think you have to work holistically, don't you, and look at your whole life when dealing with
Yes.
pain, because the pain affects your life in every way, but also your life, as you say so cleverly in the book, impacts on the pain. There's this interconnectedness of every aspect of your life that's not functioning, gets worse when you're in that pain situation. And I think, what sort of issues do you find your clients sort of struggling with in their lives alongside the pain?
Well, like you rightly said, chronic pain touches everything, right? Touches your relationships, your career path, your sleep. You can't even sleep well at night anymore. Your financial ability, you being independent and mobile and doing the things you want every day on your own terms. Parenting, and even your sense of worth, identity, right? So many of the people I work with feel isolated, misunderstood, helpless, overwhelmed, especially because we end up internalizing this shame of not being able to do the things we used to do in the past, and also a lot of grief over lost ambitions, aspirations, dreams, right? And also grieving that self, the person who we used to be, and wanting that person back. So living with chronic pain, it touches so much in our life, and there's this huge emotional and mental suffering that comes with it, right? And so I have clients saying all the time, and I completely relate to this because I spent a lot of my own life, so many years, saying the same thing, that I feel like a burden. I don't feel like I belong anymore because everything feels so different. That is that is such a heavy emotional weight, to carry. It's so heavy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's massive, isn't it? It is. And as you say in the book as well, you put it so beautifully that any kind of fissures or cracks in your life that were there before the pain, kind of, if your relationship wasn't that great, or you had issues with, a family member, or your job isn't what you really love, the moment that the pain hits, it just magnifies all of that.
Everything. Pain really brings forward everything that you've been trying to hide.
Mm.
You know,
Ah, that's beautiful, beautifully put. Yeah.
everything. Because with pain, you have to show so much control every day, so much being willing to get up in the morning with pain and go through life. That's difficult. And sometimes we no longer have the bandwidth to cope with other things that's going on in life, and things
Mhm.
just explode.
Yeah,
That's how it is.
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Pain is such a multifaceted thing, isn't it, in people's lives? It's a kind of force, isn't it, in your life that kind of rips through like a wrecking
Yes.
ball and destroys not just, your physical issues that it brings with it, but destroys your whole world in many, many ways. I think it's interesting as well, if you don't mind me asking,
Hmm.
as women, motherhood and coping with motherhood and pain, and maybe the feelings of, shame around that as well,
Yeah.
not being the mother that you feel, maybe you wanted to be, or I think that's a big issue. Have you found that with your own life?
Well, yes, I have three children, two teenagers and one quite younger. So I've been through this journey of motherhood, and I've lived with the guilt, the shame, the grief. Um, and really, it's like there is this motherhood that I had imagined, right? And then there is the one that my body allows me to live,
Hmm.
right? So there's the imagine, and then there's the reality, and there's this gap. in motherhood. So, I've had to really unlearn the societal narrative of what a perfect mother looks like, right?
Yeah.
What does it mean to be a perfect mother? And chronic pain has forced me to redefine what motherhood is, what nurturing a child means. So some days it could be you could be more active because you have less pain. That would mean going out with your child, doing things that are a bit more physical. Some days could be a high pain day, and you need to find ways on those days to continue to nurture your child. And then on these days, connection with a child looks different. It could be like I do, lying in bed and playing imaginary games. We've created so many characters. We do so much role play every day. It's amazing. You wouldn't believe it. And these are moments of connections. That's what children are looking for. Um, so we spend so much time grieving over what could have been or what life should look like that we forget that there are other ways of building connection, of being a mother, of parenting. See? And it's not only that, it's not only regarding parenting. If we think about the things that we're teaching our kids when we are modeling things like emotional regulation, learning pacing, boundaries, self care, we are modeling these for our children and we are learning from it, right?
Mm.
And these are things that will be incredibly valuable and helpful to them in their own lives. We hear of
Yeah.
so many people nowadays burning out at work. They do not have any chronic health issues, but they do not have good boundaries. They do not pace. They don't have any self-care ritual. So people are burning out. People are getting sick and depressed. And through our own examples, our kids learn to take better care of themselves for now, for the present, and for the future too. And in my own family, for us, what's really helped us is creating a rhythm of rest and activity. So I have a specific rest time in the afternoon, and my kids know it. And they also use this time for their own quality me time, alone time, where they do their own thing. So this has really helped us as a family. So it's all about adapting your life and being willing to look at parenting differently. That's what it's about.
Oh, that is so beautiful. I absolutely love that. And I mean, you're obviously a fantastic mum and a fantastic role model to your children. As you say, they've learned things from you that no other parents could have taught them because of what you have uniquely shown them on your own journey. So, yeah, absolutely redefining what parenthood is. And, sometimes parents are, their children have difficult experiences with parents, who are well and healthy, but maybe they're not parenting in a great way. But, pain does not stop you from being a great parent, as you just
Yeah.
explained. So there's no reason why you can't be an amazing mum while you have pain. And it's so beautiful to hear you explain that. Lovely. Thank
Thank
you
you so
so
much.
much.
Thank you.
So tell me a little bit more. What tools and strategies do you use with your clients to manage their chronic pain? You've talked a little bit about the visualizations and things that you've
Mhm.
used. Do you bring those into your sessions? What other tools do you use with your clients?
So, I like to look at coaching really. Let's just say pain coaching has three core dimensions, three aspects, okay? The mind, what
Mm.
goes on in here, the body, taking care of the body, and life. And we just talked about life. So we know that chronic pain takes a toll, a real toll on your mental health. So here we look at things like working with the anxiety of flare ups, the guilt of resting, the grief over lost abilities, parenting, and so on. So, here the goal is to help people move from self criticism to self compassion, right? And to build emotional resilience. So, I have this tool that I like using from acceptance and commitment therapy, and it's called life mapping. And so it's a simple framework and it helps people reconnect to the things that really matter to them, even when they still have pain present in their life. So I'll give you an example of something a client said to me recently in an email, and I'm going to quote what she said. She says, I was struggling with feeling trapped in my house and raging against chronic illness care. But through our sessions, you helped me to reframe my thinking, and now I choose to view my home as my sanctuary and stretching and resting as acts of love for my body in line with my value of compassion. So, when it comes to the mind, this is the amazing work that we do in pain coaching.
Oh,
Let's talk about the body, which is absolutely an essential aspect because we're talking about chronic illness, aren't we? And one key piece here is nervous system regulation. And yes, we bring in tools like somatic tools like grounding, breath work, body scans. These are all essential to helping someone live a life well with chronic pain and chronic illnesses. And along with this is building tiny habits. Tiny habits can make a big difference, and we don't really realize how important they are. So it's about helping people build sustainable routines about food, rest, movement, doing it without overwhelm, right? So I, I had I had a client. So she had arthritis and she loved baking. She absolutely loved baking, but she used to bake every week and end up eating the whole cake herself because she lived alone. So you can imagine how that was making her worse. So we found a solution. So keep a food for the week, share the rest with the neighbors, and we explored healthy mug cake options. So the thing here, she didn't have to give up joy. She didn't have to give up her baking, something she loved doing. She just needed a little reframe. You see how it works? And interestingly, she also ended up losing 10 pounds while still baking. How amazing is that? It's
yeah,
great, isn't it?
it
Okay,
is.
let's talk about the loss aspect. We just talk about life, about how chronic pain changes everything, right? Our hobbies, daily routines, everything. It affects everything. So we work with tools that I know you also work with. I know you would be very familiar with those tools too, Deborah. Things like pacing, teaching people how to pace so they manage their energy, planning for days where there are higher pain days, planning for those days, talking about boundaries, self care practices, these kind of stuff. So it's about, like I mentioned before, we keep grieving that life we used to have. But it's not about going back to that life, that old self. It's about creating this new self and creating this new life, a new life that feels dignified, that feels doable, and that doesn't feel overwhelming, if that's making sense. And I'll give you an example, a recent example. I was working with this young woman recently, and she was a well-known social media influencer and content creator, right? And an award-winning makeup artist with a large following on TikTok. And she suddenly became seriously unwell. She spent quite a few months in a coma. That's how sick she was. When she woke up, she had to go through rehabilitation and all right, but she then became a full-time wheelchair user, and that really affected her self-confidence because her whole life, her whole career was online, so everything has changed. So our biggest win, I think, was when she began posting on social media again, and this time with her wheelchair visible. So that was me, that I knew then that, okay, she's gained back that self confidence, that self trust. And this is what pain coaching is really about, right? It's this all encompassing, which touches the mind, your body, and your life. And it helps a person feel seen, feel heard, and being able to embrace life with joy again. That's what it's about.
Oh, that's amazing. How fantastic. And absolutely, I think that's just so beautiful that you're helping people to reconnect to themselves. I think there's that happens to us whenever we become poorly or we become, in pain. We have this thing that one day when I'm better, I will
I will.
do the things that bring joy to my life. I can't do it now, but I will do it one day when I'm better. And we kind of put our whole life on hold until this day and think, well, I can't do anything that brings me joy. I can't be happy now. I can't be seen now. I can't be visible now. When I'm better, when I'm perfect, when I'm healed, then I can go out into the world and do my thing. But until then, I've got to hide away and be miserable. And that is just that keeps us stuck, doesn't
Yeah,
it? Because that's such a miserable existence. It's such a stressful existence. It
it
then
is.
fuels the pain, it fuels the illness, and makes us feel worse. Whereas with your help, obviously, you're helping people to re-engage and reconnect with what brings them joy, find ways to bring that in as they're living. That is healing in itself, isn't it? It enables you to recreate a life, as you said, a good life with the pain, and that's the goal, isn't it? That's the aim.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So creating a life with pain, sometimes we think that, okay, this is not possible. Like you say, it's only when the pain goes away that we'll be able to live again. And I
Yeah.
don't blame people for thinking like this because, I mean, I was like that for years. Nobody
Yeah.
told me that things could be different. I thought that, okay, I just need to get rid of this pain and then I'll get back to life again, right?
Hmm.
Things will be okay again. It never came to me then that I could still have a life, you know? I could still have a good life. I could still have a career, even though I have pain in my life. You know, it didn't come to me then. But now I'm really so happy now that I'm hearing more and more from so many different people who are bringing a new narrative to others that you can be chronically unwell and you can have a fuller, meaningful life still.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's fueled as well by that kind of societal norm, isn't it? That society only values you if you're
Mm,
perfect, if you're beautiful, if you're productive, if you make money, if you're successful. And that kind of, we judge ourselves against that standard and think, well, then I can't do all of that. So then, there's no point in trying. It fuels that feeling, doesn't it, of guilt and shame and all of that we've talked about. But there are different ways of being successful and joyful and living happy lives. And it doesn't have to look like that societal norm of going to an office from 9 to 5. And, it doesn't have to look like that. You can create your own life that works for you and is nourishing and supportive of you and your body and brings you joy while you have pain. It's okay to do that.
yeah, absolutely. Life doesn't need to look like what society tells us it should look like. Because a lot of those narratives are they are harmful to us. They are
Yeah.
harmful to us as people who live with chronic illnesses, and they are harmful to people who are not living with chronic illnesses. They are harmful to everyone.
They are absolutely, because this is how people get burnout, isn't it? If they're not getting, they're not having chronic illness, but they are not living in a way that is nourishing and sustainable and healthy for them, they get burnout, and all sorts of people don't fit that model, do they? And it's just not helpful for anybody. It really isn't. So yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. So you're teaching people self-help strategies as well that they can do at home. Is that the idea as well? Do people do tools and things after you've worked with them in the session? Are there things that they do as well outside of the session?
Absolutely, because I think that the bulk of the work that helps us live well happens outside of those sessions.
Mm-hmm.
When we are in session, when I'm coaching someone, that's only for 1 hour a week or every other week. So the work that needs to be done, the work that they need to be doing in terms of their diet or their sleep or nervous system regulation or changing their routines or parenting. This happens outside of the session. So I do teach a lot of self-help strategies, and my favorites are micro practices, things that just take a few minutes, like deep diaphragmatic breathing or mindful poses during the day to help you settle, right? So, one thing that I've been recommending a lot lately, and I recommend to anyone living with chronic pain and chronic fatigue, is this simple advice: don't touch your phone as soon as you wake up. That's the best self help
Mhm.
advice I can offer. Don't reach for your phone. Okay, so what I do is I set my alarm for, let's say, 15 to 30 minutes before I wake up. So I do need to reach for my phone to switch it off. I stay in bed with my eyes closed and I go through a short cycle of calming practices. And this is something I teach my clients to do. I start with gentle breath work to settle my nervous system, a body scan to notice how I'm feeling on the day. Okay. Visualizations and gentle touch to bring safety back into the body because we know that is so important to stabilizing chronic pain. And finally, I like doing simple lymphatic massage for my face and neck, and that's really just me being me. So this ritual of care, it helps me decide how much I can take on for the day, how my body is doing, what I need to prioritize for the day, what I need to reschedule or delegate. And it's also significantly helped me reduce my migraines, right? And I repeat it during the day if I'm having a high pain day. So it's a small shift, but it gives you a soft and but powerful start to the day. And all of these need to happen outside of sessions. If you're practicing those skills only in sessions, they do not work. They need to be ongoing every single day and they need to become part of our routine, our habits, what we do without, what we do naturally.
Yeah,
That's when they really help us.
absolutely. It's like practicing, it's like retraining the brain, isn't it? The more times you
Yes,
repeat it, the more it becomes second nature.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
And,
Yes.
and, and it needs to be constant.
Mm.
We should be doing it, we should be finding ways of doing these practices without overwhelm. It shouldn't feel as if we having to add so much more to our day and now it feels too overwhelming.
Mm.
And this is what we talk about in pain coaching. How do you include those practices in your day so you don't feel overwhelmed or and make sure that they are sustainable over time. This is
Yeah.
important too.
Oh, it's hugely important, isn't it? I think a lot of self-help stuff for people who are in pain or who have fatigue or who have any kind of illness, it feels totally undoable, doesn't it? You read a book that's this thick and it tells you to do hundreds of things every day, and you just can't do it, can you? And people think, well, I just need, I'll just give up. They try it for a week, it's
Yeah,
impossible. It makes them worse because they're pushing themselves. So I love it that you do such small, sustainable, gentle practices. It's really that is the key to empowerment, isn't it, as well? Because you're teaching people how they can regulate themselves at home. It's no good them becoming dependent on you in a session and only being able to do it when they're with you. That's part of the empowerment, isn't it? You're enabling them to control their body anywhere, anytime they need that help. They can do it for themselves.
absolutely. I think that's the most important thing, really, to help
Mm.
people to self-regulate and to be able to take care of themselves. That's what we call regaining agency over your body and your life. It's not about being dependent on the coaching sessions or on the person who's helping you, right? It's about being able to live life on your terms without being dependent on anyone.
Hmm.
That's what
Yeah.
it's about. I have clients who go for months without talking to me. right? And in between this
Yeah.
time, that doesn't mean we are not doing anything. We are practicing whatever we've learned. And oftentimes we are reading books or going through workbooks and doing things on their own, which afterwards, when they meet me after so many weeks, will bring to me, okay, we've done this and we've done this, and we need help with this. So what we're seeing here is people um, taking the step to stabilize their symptoms by themselves. This is what we mean by reclaiming agency. This is what we mean by self-regulation.
Yeah, absolutely. Ultimately, we want to become redundant in their life, don't we? We want them
Yes.
to go off and be doing it themselves and be free and be living a life of, empowerment and joy and looking after themselves and knowing that they can come back to us at any time if they need to.
Yep,
That's when you've
absolutely.
been successful, isn't it? You know you've been successful as a coach if you've done
Yeah.
that with people. Yeah.
I think that's a great point, Deborah, because that's the difference between counseling and life coaching.
Yeah.
It's important not to mix up the two. Counseling, usually, people would be in counseling for years, seeing the counselor every week. But in coaching, we give people skills. We're teaching them skills and we are learning skills that they can use in their life. And it's completely different from counseling. It's more
Mm,
time limited
mm,
and it's focused on the present and on the future and not focused on the past. I've had people who have been working with a counselor and working with me at the same time,
mm.
which shows that the work that counselors and life coaches do is completely different. We should not be confusing the two, and I think you would agree with me there.
Absolutely. Yes, completely. Yeah, totally agree. And I think as coaches, we hear people, we listen to them, we understand, we empathize. So, people get that aspect from it to feel their voice has been heard in that way. But then it's moving forward, isn't it? I think once you feel like you've been heard, it's almost like you can then move forward, isn't it? When you're holding on to that frustration and that anger about your story and what's happened to you and the injustice you've experienced and the suffering that you've been through, until you've spoken it and said it to someone and felt that they really listened to you and validated you and heard you, and then they can move on as you that is such a powerful thing that you're doing as a coach, but it doesn't just stop with that. It doesn't just stop with the story of all the
Mm.
dreadful things. It then moves forward into how they then turn their life around and change and make things different for themselves. That's beautiful.
Yep, because sometimes we become stuck in those difficult stories, these heavy stories, that things
Mm,
that happened to us.
mm,
For
yeah.
example, one thing that I've seen a lot is people who've had negative experiences with healthcare providers. Such
Hmm.
negative experiences that they do not want to go back to their healthcare provider, which means that now they might be experiencing new symptoms, but they are trapped in that fear, which means they won't go and see a doctor. So I suppose in pain coaching, our work is also to help people process those things that happen to them and how to not stay stuck in those stories and to move forward with life, despite whatever terrible things could have happened in the past.
Exactly. Yes. Understandably so that people feel, deeply distressed by what they've experienced. Absolutely. But it's important that we can find a way to move forward from that, isn't it? Absolutely. As a coach, that's a really powerful thing to do. And the body scan, I love that you are helping people reconnect to their bodies and listen to their bodies and hear that message from the body. And that is so, like you say, so empowering. That's hugely important part of what you do, isn't it? Is helping people to become friends with their bodies again and listen to their bodies. You can't know what you need. You can't know if today is a rest day or a push day unless you're listening to the body and you're hearing those signals. So I think it's beautiful to start with a body scan like you've just described there.
We tend to sometimes ignore what the body is saying. because
Yeah.
nobody has taught us. Nobody has taught us to listen to the body, right?
No.
So we ignore, we push through, we keep doing things that we shouldn't be doing that is harmful to the body. And
Yeah.
that's when we burn out and we get more sick. So it's about learning to reconnect to the body, reconnect without judgment, without feeling critical, without shame,
Yeah.
and learning to care for the body again in a very kind, flexible, compassionate manner.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's so much, almost I'd go so far as to say hatred that people can develop for their bodies, which is such a terribly sad thing. And, I recognize that in myself at times in my life. And, what you've just described there is so beautiful.
I, you mentioned this hate for the body, right? This
Mm.
hatred for the body. And I can relate to this because I went through a period of feeling disconnected, disgusted, and feeling hatred for the body. And this was when the pain was really high. I had no support. I did not have a space where I could share and I could open up. And that was really a dark, dark phase of my life, right? And I vividly remember what was in the beginning of my journey. One day I was in a room, and the room I was in had a wall painted red. The other walls were white. There was just this one red wall. And the thought came to me, I was in a in bad pain. I was in bad pain at that moment. And the thought came to me that if I were to bash my head violently on that red wall, nobody would notice because it's red and blood is red. Now you can see how disturbing these thoughts are. And you can see they don't make sense. But when you are in a pain flare, when you're gripped by severe pain, you lose your rational thoughts, you lose your sense of self, you lose everything. You lose everything. And these very, very painful and difficult thoughts can come to you then. It's a terribly, terribly hard time. So I completely emphasize with people who are currently going through such terrible pain. Yes, right now my pain is stable. I'm not going through such phases again, but I've been through them. I get it, how life-changing going through such pain can be.
Yeah. Absolutely. Becomes all consuming, doesn't it? It just feels like there's nothing else and no
Yes.
point in going on.
Yeah.
Which leads us really well into the last point, really. If there are people out there listening, maybe they are in that state now, and maybe, they're experiencing pain-induced despair that you talked
Mm.
about, and they're feeling, desperate and hopeless and
Yeah.
feeling those dark thoughts and in that dark place that you've just described so well. And they just feel like their life is over, there's no point, their dreams are beyond them now. What would you say to them? What would your message be to someone in that situation?
I hate offering false hope to people. I don't do that because I know how severe pain really feels like. And
Yeah,
I understand the fear, the grief, and how dark, how life becomes so dark. You feel like you're completely disconnected with your own body, with everything. So I know how heavy it is, but I suppose I would say this, life isn't over. Life isn't over. I am in a better place now. And I know so many others who've been through really rough patches, really rough periods of time. And I know people who are still living with severe pain, but have somehow managed to find a way through and to get back to life, right? I know this elderly woman who follows me on Facebook. So she was into ministry. right? But she became sick with chronic pain and she left her ministry. So one day she messaged me on Facebook and she said, she started following me and she started to look at her life differently. And she started ministering online, right? So she's found a way. It's not that the pain got better, it's just that she found a way to adapt and get back to something she loves doing, right? Which gave her a sense of joy and purpose and hope again, you know? So, healing doesn't always mean that the pain goes away, that the pain disappears. Okay, this is the reality. If I were to say something like, yes, pain coaching would take your pain away 100% guaranteed, I would be lying. Healing doesn't mean that the pain would go away. But maybe healing means finding moments of connection, of warmth, of joy, and purpose again inside a different body, because this is a different body and inside of a different life, really.
Absolutely. I think hope is the key, isn't it? There is always the
Mm,
possibility for change. There is always the possibility that things will get better, that things will improve. They may not always be like they are now. And
yeah,
like you say, you can find a way through. Life can get better. You have to hold on to that hope as someone who has been, in similar dark circumstances. Absolutely. I look back now and think, thank goodness I held on. Thank
yeah,
goodness I told myself, because it was hope in those dark moments that I kept thinking it will get better. Something will change. There is hope. I've just got to hold on and keep trying. And I'm so glad I did now, because as you say, things change. Nothing is forever. Things have shifted. And that's the key thing, isn't it? To really hope, hang on to that hope that life will be better.
life can get better. It's difficult to hang on to hope when you're going through very difficult
Oh, yeah.
situations. And
Yeah.
I've had time when I've told people, you know what, I understand you feel hopeless. I completely understand. I
Yeah.
understand you can't find even a tiny grain of hope in your heart right now because things are so tough right now. I understand that completely, but I'm here to hold on to that hope for you in the meantime.
Absolutely. Oh, that's really beautiful. Yes. And as a coach, that's the most powerful thing you can do for somebody, isn't it? Is to believe if that when they can't believe themselves that hope is possible, you believe in them and the possibility for them that their life can get better.
Absolutely. And it brings us to having the right support in life. And sometimes
Yeah.
around us, in terms of family and friends, we don't get that kind of support. Some people
Mhm.
maybe do not have that type of support. So it's about us reaching out to others and building our own support network. People
Yeah.
who will get us through that rough patch, people who will encourage us, motivate us, inspire us, and hold on to hope for us when we're feeling completely hopeless. So it's so important to build that community around us, whether it is face to face, like support groups, a friend who you know who also has chronic pain, or a lot of people are building um, friendships online in online support groups and so on. So we need to find our own ways of building this supportive network because I wouldn't be here without my support network. My support network from my family, my friends, but also so much from women who are going through the same things. I wouldn't be here. Half of the things I've learned is from them. That's it. It's from them.
Yeah.
They've cleared the way for me. They've helped me through things. They've advised me where I was completely confused. So it's so important to have this group of supportive people around you. I think, have you found the same, Deborah, like in terms of your own support in your life?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I wouldn't be here without my support network too, my family, my friends. I've been so lucky. I think one of the hardest things I see in the chronic illness community is people saying that their families and friends have abandoned them and that, they don't understand and their partner has left them and their parents don't even speak to them. And I just think, oh, how lucky I am that my family and my friends stood by me because I just don't know where I would have been without them. And it's in those moments when we need our support group the most. We desperately need their help and their support and the right people as well. Like you've just said, having people around you who can hold that space for you, who can keep that hope alive for you, who can say the right words, who can be there with you. And if you don't have that, and if the people around you are maybe not that helpful and maybe contributing to stress and pain and negativity in your life, then find your tribe, find people who will be supportive for you. Because, like you've just said, Shabnam, it's absolutely one of the most important things, if not the most important thing, really, to have people around you who are helping you and supporting you. I completely agree.
Yeah, it's completely important. I'm glad to hear you say that you've had that support, you've benefited from that support. It's
I'm
when you have that support, half of a game is won, let's say. You're halfway there.
Exactly. Yes. And as you say, when you're in those really dark times that we've just been talking about, you can't always pull yourself out of that on your own. It's really hard to fight your way out of it. You need somebody else around you to hold your hand and lift you up. You've got to have people with you at that time. It's so important. Yeah.
Completely, completely.
Oh,
I've built a good support network for myself on Facebook, which is very, very unusual for me because prior to that, I was completely invisible online. I never had any kind of social media or profile, nothing at all. And then I decided that I need connection. I need to find other people who are going through the same thing. And
yeah.
I started this Facebook group for women with chronic illnesses, which grown quite a bit. And I still have days where life feels difficult, where I feel completely discouraged or I feel confused, I feel overwhelmed because I'm getting so much information from everywhere. And I need someone to remind me that everything is okay, you're doing good, you'll get there. It could be a simple sentence, but
Yeah.
it's so powerful. It's so
Yeah.
powerful.
It is, absolutely. I mean, this journey continues for both of us, doesn't it? And for everybody. There's no one that's kind of finished the journey. It's an ongoing thing, and we continue to need that support. And social media has its benefits, doesn't it? Because when you're isolated, when you're alone, when you're in pain,
Mm.
you can't get out to face stuff. Finding your community online can be, a lifeline, can't it, for many, many people? That's absolutely true. So where can people find you then? If people are inspired and excited by what you've been talking about, how can people find you? Where can they find you on Facebook? Where can they find your website and your book? Where can people get a copy of this fantastic book?
Okay, so they can find me online on social media on Facebook, Shabnam Rakhiba.
Mm.
That's my profile. In terms of the book, they can purchase the book from my website, which is Chronic Wellness Lounge /store. I suppose I could leave a link in the comments when the podcast is out
Yeah. Okay.
to the store. And I'm also on LinkedIn for those who are on LinkedIn. I'm quite active there for the past year or so. So, Facebook, my website, and LinkedIn.
Super. Yeah, I'll pop all of the links for that underneath the video so people can find you.
Thank
Oh,
you.
it's been an absolute joy. It really has to talk to you today. I've so enjoyed this conversation. Really grateful for your time and for sharing all of your wisdom. You have so much wisdom about chronic pain and about the ways to live a good life with pain. It's just so inspiring. So thank you. Thank you so much for coming and chatting with us today.
It's been really good chatting with you today, Deborah, and I'm grateful that you gave me this opportunity. to say
Oh,
those words and to share some of the things that I've been through. You know,
oh,
I'm really grateful because it's never enough. It's never enough. All the advocacy that we are doing, it's needed. It's needed. Because, like I said in the beginning, even now, women do not have the support they deserve from the medical community. Chronic pain is still dismissed by people in society. We are still having to fight for accommodations and reasonable adjustments at work. We are losing careers, we are losing jobs, we are losing relationships because of chronic pain. And there's still so much more that society needs to understand. And this podcast is one step, one thing that we are contributing to the world and is so needed. Thank you so much for this opportunity, Deborah, and for
no,
doing what you do.
thank you. No, you're so welcome. And yes, just keep up your work because your voice is so important. And the more we talk about this and speak about it, like you say, the better. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.